I was like a broken piece of furniture in my own house, in that sense, that if I don't help myself, no one is going to help me. And that's the bitter truth of life. I have two insurances in place. One is your term plan and one is your medical. Once you're incurred with a severe disability, insurance companies don't give you insurance. People with disabilities with minimum 40% and maximum 80% can claim deductions, can take tax benefits. So we are not disabled, we are differently able, Alex.
Speak to any new parent or young child about the future and they'll paint a beautiful picture of dreams and aspirations. Some children want to be pilots and others astronauts. Of course, many of those dreams change over the years, and that's because everyone has to live life based on the cards that they're dealt. And sometimes they get dealt what may initially seem like a bad hand. Disability is a harsh reality for a lot of people. But there are now ways to get around it. It requires planning and perhaps a different approach to things. And that's what we're going to talk about today on this episode of Big Decisions. Joining me in the studio is Rushabh Desai, the founder of Rupee with Rushabh. Thanks so much, Rushabh, for taking the time. I truly appreciate you making it to the studio.
No, it's always a pleasure, Alex, to do shows with you.
So the reason that I wanted to speak to you on this episode should be obvious, but I want to understand what your own experience has been. You were not always disabled. I know that because we've met in the past. But for the benefit of my listeners and my viewers, when did you discover that you had this illness that caused your disability?
So, Alex, first, to put it very simply, see, I suffer from a rare muscle disorder called GNE myopathy.
Okay.
In layman's language, it's also known as muscular dystrophy. Okay. So after a certain age, for example, in my case, after the age of 19, my body stopped producing a protein called sialic acid. Okay. So basically, there are multiple genes we are born with, right? So both of my parents are carriers of this GNE myopathy gene. And when both parents are carriers, then the child gets it. Now, when I say that the child gets it, that doesn't mean that I got this from birth, It started to me when I was around 19, 20 years old. Now, this can start from the age of 19 to 20 till the person lives, whether it is 80 or 90, whenever it is, okay? Now, no one knows that why for certain people it starts in their 20s or certain for 30s, 40s and 50s. In my case, it started when I was around 19 or 20. See, today I'm 36 years old, okay? So it's been around 17 years into this journey.
Yeah.
So I was never like this before.
It got progressively worse?
Yes, absolutely. So, initially it started with foot drop. I was not able to lift my toe or my foot. Then it went up to my calf muscles, then a little bit of my hamstring muscles, then it came to my upper body, which is my legs. So this does not affect the internal organs, Alex. It affects the external muscles of your body, which is predominantly your hands and your legs. Of course, the later stages, it affects your back muscles and your neck as well. But yes, it's a slow deteriorating progress. It's a slow deteriorating disease. I came on a wheelchair very recently in 2018, 2019. So it's a very slow progressive disorder, Alex.
And so one of the main reasons was because you've gone through this, you've lived it, and who better to speak about dealing with disability in a positive manner than somebody who's actually doing it on an ongoing basis. I would assume that you had certain thoughts about how you wanted to live life, what you wanted to do. Did you have to change that dramatically when you discovered this disease?
Oh, absolutely. Because I was in my last year of graduation, Alex, when I got diagnosed, actually. So a lot of things were unknown to me, what this disease was. See, back in that day, a lot of awareness was also not there around, say, like when I was 19, 20, 17 years back, because this is a very rare disorder, Alex. There are hardly some 4,000-5,000 people in the world. Right. See, muscular dystrophy has 700 to 800 types of disorders. Within that, I have one of this, which is very rare, Alex. So, of course, it was very difficult. I had many plans. Like, for example, I wanted to go abroad. I wanted to pursue my MBA. I wanted to study in Ivy League college. I wanted to do much more, But unfortunately, because of this, my life completely took a U-turn at that point of time. So a lot of muscle biopsies were done because see, I didn't get diagnosed in India, Alex. Unfortunately, in India, there was no precise technology which could diagnose my disorder.
Right.
So I had to travel abroad to the Institute of Myology in Paris, where I got diagnosed with this particular disorder. There are so many patients who don't get diagnosed for years.
Yes. So, which is why it is important to talk about how to deal with a certain scenario. And I think you will also appreciate that you have certain means that your parents assisted you. That's the reason why you were able to diagnose the disease that you possess
Absolutely.
as early as you did. A lot of people don't have access to that. But it's not it's not black and white in this case as well. It is, I would say, a spectrum in terms of disability. In certain situations, it's worse than others. Yours is pretty severe. I'm sure that you've spoken about this, you've thought about this. How would you say is the best way to deal with a disability?
See, there is no one right way. As you correctly pointed out, life is never black and white, Alex. It's always gray, because in life there are multiple factors which play, in your life, which is also luck, right? See, for example, I didn't ask for this.
Yes.
It's pure bad luck for me in that sense, if you want to put it very bluntly in that way, right? But to deal with a disability requires a lot of factors. One is that you need to have the willpower to come over it. If you don't have that willpower, you will never come over it. Of course, people around you need to help you initially, mentally, psychologically, physically. Of course, there is no doubt in it. But what for those who don't have that kind of support? We have seen families where parents or family members have not supported their child. In my case also, even in my family hasn't been supportive to me. When I was normal, my family had a different outlook towards me, and when I got a disability, my family had a very different say. I was like a broken piece of furniture in my own house in that sense. Let me be very honest and very blunt with you. Okay, so if I had to convince myself mentally, Alex, that if I don't help myself, no one is going to help me. And that's the bitter truth of life.
So there was obviously a mental turmoil that you had to deal with at the time. Did you have people that you confided in? Did you read? How did you get over that?
Oh, of course, because see, I am not from science background, right? I've always been into mathematics, mutual funds, finance. So I had to read from scratch what muscular dystrophy is, how it affects,
So you had to understand the disease.
right from the scratch. So it was a very step-by-step process. See, what you see today, what I'm speaking to you right now, is a lot of hard work of 16, 17 years, Alex. It's like taking baby steps, to understand, to understand your own body also, Alex, how your body is reacting. Because, see, it's a deteriorating disorder, Alex. So it keeps on deteriorating slowly. So you have to keep on understanding how your body is reacting, what part of your body is getting weak, and adopting through this process has been absolutely very challenging.
Okay. So, but disability, like I said, has a wide definition, and there are certain cases where you're born with it. If you're talking about blindness, or you're talking about a deafness, or you're talking about the inability to speak, or you're talking about other physical disabilities where you might have an accident which causes you to become a paraplegic, or be unable to perform certain functions. It's not something that, like you said, will have the same approach. But to a certain extent, can you plan for it? Is there insurance that covers any of this?
See, there is basic medical insurance which covers your medical expenses, right? Like your hospital expenses, your treatment. But there is no insurance which takes care of the ongoing, like the aftermath process. Say, for example, when you're out of the hospital. See, for example, like for me, right? I'm completely on a wheelchair, right? My genetic disorder is actually not even covered in insurance,
Right.
Unfortunately. Right? There are so many disorders which are not covered in insurance. For example, purchasing a wheelchair, insurance does not help in that. For example, like rehabilitation, right? Insurance does not cover a lot of that. Physiotherapy, insurance does not cover that. So For example, if someone is hit for the first time, the hospitalization and everything can be taken care of. But after that, no, there is no insurance which takes care of the once you're home, the whole rehab process and the whole equipment, because there are a lot of other things also where a person with disability requires a lot of assistance. Apart from like the physio and the psychological care, of course, having a modified home, having a disabled friendly bathroom or your room, a lot of things insurance does not help you on that.
In your opinion, of course, this is not something that you can enumerate on a piece of paper, but how costly does this become?
Oh, it's very costly, Alex. Disability is not cheap at all. It's very costly.
So give me a sense.
To give you a small example, say for example, like my wheelchair, when I bought it around a few years ago, it costed me around 1.5 lakh of rupees.
Okay.
Just to get this automatic wheelchair. So now, for example, if someone wants a well-cushioned bed, right, that can also cost way more, like in lakhs of rupees. So disability is not just a few thousand, it goes into lakhs. Right. So, although enjoying life is, no one can predict life. Okay, yeah. It's very important to enjoy life also, Alex. I'm not saying that you should completely save plan. No, that's not how it used to be. But at least 50% of your income has to be done either in investments or in
That's not possible
savings.
For everyone though, Rushabh.
I agree, but today we are living in a very uncertain world, Alex. Right? Someone can go out and incur an accident and completely be paraplegic or quadriplegic, right? So having a contingency plan. Okay, now you may talk, for example, people who are young who have this kind of disabilities, either through genetic or having an accident. But at some point, we are all going to be disabled. We are forgetting the old age aspect of our lives, right? People who go in their 50s or in their 60s, they will have some kind of disability or the other, either mild or severe. Right? So planning it, right from the start. Taking risk when you're young is very important. Taking risk in terms of investments, Alex.
You've given me a sense of what your own experience was and how rare it is. And we've spoken about how costly it is to deal with certain situations, right? But let's talk about what you can do to make your life as normal as possible. You've done that. You've set up a business. Was it challenging initially? How did you go about doing it?
Oh, of course, it was very challenging, Alex. Because what happens is that in India, we are not very progressive mentally. Of course, like people like you, and there are so many people, others out there who give me an opportunity, like platform like these to come out and to show my talent and, like how people with disabilities, what they can do. But still, we are lagging behind in so many factors. The most important is like the mentality aspect.
Okay.
People with disability are still considered, like more like a liability rather than an asset, But I understand that we require support. There is no doubt in it. We are a population of 140 crore, Alex.
Yeah.
To cater to every section of the society is very difficult. I understand that. But if you channelize the funds in the right way, right? The small and basic things. It's like, Hindi mein kahavat hai na, cha hai, where there is a will, where there is a way.
Right.
So you need a will from the government level right to the grassroots level, Alex. Right. So as mentioned earlier, you cannot prepare for all of this.
Yeah.
But what I can say is that saving as much as you can, as early as you can, investing as early as you can in inflation beating products will help you lead a comfortable life, Alex.
Okay. Let's talk about how to go about that saving, because it's not going to be the same as everybody else. For example, an emergency corpus, of course, you've already mentioned it's important to have a contingency fund for events like this. But for somebody that is dealing with a disability, would you say that the amount of money that you set aside for your daily living expenses are going to have to be more, and to that end, you're going to have a different allocation to resources than somebody else would?
The emergency corpus remains the same.
Okay.
There is no different over there. I usually tell my clients and people out there that first of all, have two insurances in place. One is your term plan and one is your Mediclaim.
Okay.
Have that properly covered.
Right.
Once you are covered, right? Then have a contingency of 2 years. Say, for example, if someone is earning, say, 50,000 rupees per month, right? For he or she should have enough corpus in the emergency for that if he or she, say, gets laid off, that they should survive over the next 2 years. A lot of people say that, okay, have an emergency corpus of 6 months or 8 months. You know, at least have it for a year or two.
Okay.
And set aside in a fixed deposit or a debt mutual fund or any fixed income government scheme, you know, set aside that. Now, in terms of disability, see, because you cannot plan, see, this is an unknown territory.
Yes.
Okay. So save, as I mentioned earlier, start saving early, start investing early. Invest 50% of your, say, if you're earning 50,000 rupees per month, start an SIP.
That should be the target at least.
That should be the target, minimum, Alex. See, a lot of people say that, okay, you should do a 20-25%.
But Rushabh, that's realistic. For a lot of people that are living on rent, and I'm talking about myself as well, even at this stage, after having worked for the last 15 years, I'm still not able to do 50%.
Another better way is to curtail your existing expenses.
Sure.
Don't spend on luxury, maybe. If possible. See, if you know that you are not earning that much and etc. like that, then maybe don't spend on luxury, right? Okay, once in a while, see, we all want to indulge, go out on holidays, go watch a nice movie or go in a nice restaurant, right? Or for couples, go on nice dates, right?
Yeah.
So spending, it is very important, but having a sense of how much you're spending, right? And how frequently you're spending on these kind of luxury items.
So point taken, you should aspire to save about half of your income. What else do you need to bear in mind? You mentioned term insurance as well as health insurance. Are there challenges if you are disabled? Do the insurance companies give you the cover easily, or is that something that you need to have a conversation about? Are the premiums higher?
Usually, once you're incurred with a severe disability, insurance companies don't give you insurance.
Okay.
Unfortunately. Okay. Forget premiums being high or low. Insurance people will not. If they are giving you some kind of insurance, then you need to be very sure of what benefits are you going to get from it.
Right.
Okay. See, I'm not an insurance expert, but this is what I'm saying from my own experience.
Sure.
Okay. So it's important that if an agent is coming to you and promising you that with a disability you are getting an insurance, what benefits I can get.
So, but then if you are disabled already, then getting a health insurance or life insurance is going to be a little bit of a challenge. And then from that perspective, what is the advice that you would give if you have dependents?
See, it's not little bit, it's very difficult.
Right.
If you have a disability, you usually won't get an insurance.
Yeah.
Okay. See, if you don't have money in your hand, then you're dependent on your family.
Yes.
Right. Then, of course, having good relationship with your parents or your family is very important.
Yeah.
See, the worst part is that if you're dependent on someone, it's like giving your own remote control onto someone else.
Agreed, point taken. But then if you don't have, so for example, you've set up a business, there are a lot of other people that are also gainfully employed. And I have a lot of acquaintances, friends that are gainfully employed. In fact, we have people in the newsroom as well that are, that are hard of hearing, but they're still working as journalists. So what I'm trying to get at is that if you don't have access to health insurance or life insurance, do you set up a fund to take care of medical expenses? What do you do?
It goes out from your investment kitty.
Right.
Alex. So this is what I would suggest, Alex. See, if you're doing a full-time job, you have that one source of income. Have a passive source of income, which is your investments.
Sure.
Okay. Save and invest as much as you can. Okay. I mean, aspire to save as high as 50%, but whatever you can. Third is maybe you can do a side business also, Alex. There are so many people, who are working full time, but they do some kind of side business, or maybe their family also helps them in setting up a side business, Alex. So then you have three sources of income. One is from your job, one is from your investments, and one is from your side business.
If that is possible.
If that is possible, Alex.
All right. Let's talk about tax. And the government in the old tax regime has made certain provisions to help people with disabilities. Can you talk about that?
Yes, absolutely. So people with disabilities with minimum 40% and maximum 80% can claim deductions, can take tax benefits. People under section 80U and section 80DD. Okay. So people who are 40% disabled then they can claim tax deductions up to 75,000 per financial year. And if a person who's severely disabled, say minimum 80% and above, they can claim tax deductions up to 1,25,000 per financial year.
How is that defined though? The 80% and the 40%?
So you need to get yourself checked. Okay, you get a disability certificate.
Sure.
So you need to go into a government hospital, right, and get yourself assessed. Okay, and the doctor, the chief medical officer, will give you a percentage of how severe or mild your disability is. Okay, based on that you get a disability certificate. But it's very important to go to a government hospital and get the disability certificate done by the chief medical officer.
Understood. I don't know if you would be aware, because you're not obviously a medical practitioner, but if you've read or if you've given advice, what would blindness constitute as? A complete blindness would be the degree of blindness?
100%, 100%,
okay.
the degree of blindness.
Okay.
That's how they will rate your disability.
Sure.
See, there are multiple disabilities. For example, hearing, blindness, if someone cannot talk. For example, like for me, who's like physically disabled,
Yeah.
someone who is mentally disabled also, like who's not sound-minded or something like that. So the doctor will be able to give you gradings based on your physical
Sure.
or your mental disability, Alex.
Okay. But this is not available in the new tax regime.
This is not available in the new tax regime. So it is unfortunately only available in the old one under Section 80U and Section 80DD.
Okay, so it's actually a very important aspect to consider, and perhaps there will be representations made to the finance minister to consider.
Yes.
Because there have been exceptions that have been made in certain other categories. There's no reason why this should not be considered. There are certain other benefits that the government also provides, not very large monetarily, but they exist.
Yes, I mean, people with disabilities do get pension, a monthly pension of say 500 or 600 rupees per month, but it's not substantial. But if you have a minimum, it's again based on your disability, the minimum criteria is 40%. So based on your grading or your percentage of your disability, you can claim pension from the government of India around 500 to 600 rupees per month.
Okay. Closing comments. In terms of, you mentioned interpersonal relationships, but if people are listening to this and if their child or somebody that they know is disabled and they have a positive mindset, they want to help and they want to ensure that their child or their loved one goes through and lives life as normal as possible, what advice would you give to those people?
See, treat your child as normal as possible, whether it is your child or an adult, okay? Don't compromise on anything just because the society is saying that acha ye nahi karna chahiye, wo nahi karna chahiye, ghar mein rehna chahiye. No. Support your son or your daughter the way he or she wants.
Sure.
Encourage him or her to pursue his dreams. Education is the base. Make sure that they have a very strong education base, whether it is graduation or post-graduation, and then support them in whatever field they want to. Most importantly, when a child or an adult incurs with a disability, go to a good counselor.
You're talking about a mental counselor?
No. Just a regular counselor. They will help you. See, if someone is having a genetic kind of disease, then maybe a genetic counselor would be best.
Sure.
Or just a normal counselor, who can help connect the dots, who can help the family also understand how they should deal with their child or the adult.
Seek good medical advice is what you're saying?
See, medical advice is different, Alex.
Okay.
Medical advice is you go to a doctor and the doctor will tell you how to take care of the child. But I'm mainly talking on a day-to-day basis. See, when you're ill, you take a medication and then after a few days, your body kicks off the virus and you're fine, right?
Yeah.
But what about like how to deal with the child or the adult mentally?
Yes.
Or like understanding the person with disability,
Yeah.
his or her needs, right? We have many needs. See, we are disabled, okay, but I will put it in that sense that we are not disabled, we are differently able, Alex.
Yes.
Disabled means you're not able to do anything.
That's a very important
I'm just able to do it in a different way.
Yes.
Simple as it goes.
Absolutely right.
But going to a good counselor, having group sessions with your parents, with the extended family at times, will help, having a good relationship, healthy relationship, and will help the child to prosper in a much more better way, Alex.
On that note, Rushabh, thanks so much for taking the time and for speaking to us on Big
Thank you
Decisions.
so much, Alex, for having me.
Right, that brings us to the end of this conversation, and hopefully it's been insightful for you. Let us know what you think, and do stay tuned. Lots more coming up on NDTV Profit.